All right. So, hello everybody. Um, Mistakes. This is such an interesting topic. Even this morning, actually, I went into the kitchen to make an omelette, messed that up completely, ended up with some decent scrambled eggs instead. So it's mistakes like these that make our life interesting, don't they? So let's kick things off with a quick poll. Let's say, how many of us here have made a mistake in life or at work which we regretted immediately? Right? There you go, that's a lot. Right? Now, keep your hands up if you learned something new from that mistake or if that benefited you in any way. Right? So, mistakes generally have a bad reputation. We often fear them, we hide from them, and sometimes we even refuse to own up to them. But if embraced, these mistakes can be incredible catalysts for growth. Opportunities, innovation, and dare I even say masterpieces. Right? I'm not so sure who said this, whether it was Denzel Washington or Rocky Balboa. But the point was that they took milk as an example. Okay, I'm sorry that all my examples are currently coming from the kitchen. But it went something on these lines. It was like, if milk spoils, it turns to yogurt. Don't fact check me on this. It's paneer, some of us may say, but this is a Western quote. Let's just give them the benefit of the doubt. So if milk spoils, it turns to yogurt. Yogurt is more valuable than milk. When yogurt spoils further, it turns to cheese. And cheese is more valuable than both milk and yogurt. So you're not bad because you make mistakes. It's these mistakes which make you more valuable as a person. My cricket coach used to tell us, practice doesn't make you perfect. Perfect practice makes you perfect. And what he meant by that was he never wanted us to play with a tennis ball because it would apparently spoil the game. But to add to that, it's these mistakes what we learn from which kind of take us closer to perfection. So I'd like to share a couple of philosophies with you which we use at work, speaking of perfection. Perfection doesn't exist, is what we believe. It's the progress where the magic happens. And even if perfection exists, it's a little overrated. It's better to get 90% there rather than wasting time on the last 10% of it. Right? So while I was going to Boston to study, I was going to it was a dual degree program. So I was doing my first master's in international business, and then I was doing a second master's in international marketing. But once I went there and I was doing my first master's, I realized the importance of data, analytics, numbers in general. And I felt like that's the space I want to be in. And I felt like I could learn a lot from that space. So I pivoted after my first master's. Instead of doing marketing, moved into the analytics space. Of course, I didn't have any computer science background or any sort of programming expertise. So there were times, I had to do a lot of online courses, just, catch up during the breaks, basically to understand the terminology and that kind of, those kind of things. But I think that was a half-decent decision in retrospect. So mistakes, or what seem like mistakes, often nudge us to better paths. And it's up to us to always be open to that iteration, right? Like iteration, I feel, is super crucial, and I think a lot of like what we say, masterpieces, I think that is probably how they'd be created. A lot of us talk about this fail fast mentality, right? So that's the other philosophy I'd like to talk about. But I really like the way John Maxwell puts it. He says, fail early, fail often, but always fail forward. This mantra is what kind of, helps us iterate quickly, learn faster, and adapt immediately. So the grass is not always green on the other side. It's green where you water it. And that's a good segue into my other pillar of our brand, which are the home chefs. Right now, we also wanted to do something where we give back to the society. Now, how do we do that? When it's got to do with my restaurant in general. So we wanted to empower women home chefs. This way, we are able to leverage their decades of cooking expertise. And running a kitchen is not easy, right? Now, let's say you look at the restaurant space. Probably after the airlines industry, it's the restaurant space which is the most challenging space to be in. And a normal restaurant, let's say, runs a lunch service and a dinner service, and each of those sessions probably be 3 hours each. You're monetizing only 6 hours during the day. But to be able to monetize those 6 hours during the day, your kitchen is functioning throughout the day. And let's not even talk about the prices of the vegetables. It's more volatile than Bitcoin. We already know that. So it was a win-win for all of us, where we were able to work with women home chefs, provide them with a stable income that also relieves us of being able to operate and run a full-fledged kitchen. So that's where I think we wanted to disrupt the fast food industry, and that kind of benefited us quite a bit as we got started with this. Now, that brings me to this next framework. I'd just like to share this few principles with you. Basically, it's this concept of effectuation. Now, effectuation is basically a concept, it's a way of thinking of just getting things done, making things happen, and solving problems based on the resources that are available to us. Right, and there are a few different principles which I talk about, starting with the bird in hand principle. Right, now what this tells us is start with what you have. Right, like who am I, what do I know, who do I know? This is your immediate circle, right? So you start with that. Basically start with what you have, move almost directly to implementation, rather than spending so much time pre-planning and pondering over if this may happen, if this may not happen. What this does is it kind of helps us iterate quickly based on what we deal with. The other thing is the principle of affordable loss. Now, as like what business school teaches us, as humans, we are trained to think about how can we maximize profitability and use the most efficient strategy and implement it that way, right? But I'd say flip that thing around. Rather than focusing on what we can gain from this, think about what we can afford to lose. When you start thinking about what we can afford to lose, this basically, it creates opportunity with low failure costs and high learning potential. So you do something, you fail, you iterate quickly, rather than waiting for too long. The next one is the crazy quilt principle. Right, now this crazy quilt principle, what this talks about is basically embracing partnerships rather than obsessing over competitors. Right, so we build partnerships, foster a community as such. The next one is the lemonade principle, and that's my absolute favorite one. The lemonade principle, like you've probably heard of the saying, when life gives you lemons, make lemonade, right? But this principle takes things further, right? Don't just make lemonade. Bake a pie, make tarts, make cake, make a bunch of things, right? Just maximize what you can with that. So it's basically the ability to turn the unexpected into something profitable. So there was this time I ordered for bananas. You have an option of either count or kilos, right, or pounds, right? So you can either shop by weight or by count. So I put in 3 counts of bananas, and in a couple of hours, somebody dropped off those bananas at my door with everything else I had actually ordered. So the next time I went to the app, I ordered 5 counts of bananas, but this time, instead of getting 5 bananas, they dropped off 5 bunches of 8 bananas each. And all of a sudden, I was sitting with 40 bananas in my kitchen, and my house looked like a monkey sanctuary. I didn't really know what to do with all of this, right? So I Googled things I could make with bananas or whatever, right? And that's when I taught myself how to bake banana bread. That was the first time I ever did it. I watched a YouTube video and made that. Then I chopped up some bananas, put in the freezer for my protein smoothies. Then I did a little bit of meal prep and all of this, right? And this was all possible just because somebody gave me so many bananas and I didn't know how to deal with it. So the point here is basically, it is about how further can we go, right? Like in case of this, it's lemonade, but in my story, it was bananas, right? But you get my point. That's basically what I was talking about. And the last one is a pilot in plane principle. This principle basically talks about you're in charge of your venture, you take control, but no pilot doesn't navigate alone, right? He has his co-pilot. So it's all about co-creation and taking control of situations and making things happen. basically. Right, so I have a small little activity planned for you, which I'd call reverse brainstorming. Um, I have a few different examples here. Let's say organizing a TEDx event, right, like this one. Now, when we generally brainstorm, we always brainstorm ways to make it better. How can we do this in the best way possible and things like that, right? Now, flip this completely, right? Think of a way where you can like how can you make this event as bad as possible, right? Like in the worst way possible, right? Sorry, I have nothing against the organizing team here. You guys are wonderful. But this is just a way of thinking. I'm just trying to help you think in that way, right? So if you had to organize the worst possible TEDx event, right? Like this equipment wouldn't be working, speakers show up late. I was almost there, right? Like right? So speakers show up late, the invites are not given, people don't know that such a thing is happening. So there are so many things which could go wrong, right, with an event like this. So when you think about the ways you could, okay, let's talk about speakers arriving late. I think that's the favorite topic. So speakers arriving late, how can we flip this, right? And again, I'm not saying none of you all did this, okay? You guys were perfect. But what I'm trying to say is, like, let's say you have certain debriefing sessions, or you have, like yesterday you reached out saying, hey, you want us to arrange a pickup and drop for you, and things like that, right? But basically, these are ways we kind of ensure that we are avoiding those problems of, showing up late or things like that. But also, this provides us, like let's say if we had a debriefing session, like we went over and we had refreshments, right? It was a great opportunity for us to network and meet our fellow speakers and chat with them and basically get to know each other, right? So there's a lot of benefit as well from organizing these kind of things. At the same time, you also fix the main problem where you like, this way at least we are here on time, right? Or things are working fine, right? The next one is working a job, okay? So working a job, what's the worst that could happen if you're working a job, right? You get fired, right, from it. So if you're thinking about it in that way, okay, you're fired now. What do you do next, right? Of course, now you have a clean slate. You have a chance to kind of regroup and think, okay, do you want to find another job? No, do you want to do something else? Do you want to start a business? If you want to start a business, you probably got a severance by getting laid off. Use that, you can use that as capital. Okay, no stress if you didn't get one. You have your soft skills. You can start a low income, low capital intensive business. You can do consulting. There's freelance work. Basically, there's a lot of different options by organizing these kind of events. Anyway, here's the big idea, right? Mistakes are inevitable. These kind of things are bound to happen and they'll happen. But with the right mindset, they're also invaluable, right? So the next time you're in the kitchen and you make a mistake with an omelette, don't worry, they're just scrambled eggs waiting to happen, right? So yeah, I'll leave you with this. Thank you so much for listening to me. It's a pleasure to be here.